You want success. You want success, not just money, not just applause, but a life that means something, a life that reflects the best of who you are. But let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. You can't have that kind of success without sacrifice. There's a universal law at play here, the law of sacrifice. You want to gain something great, you got to give something up. That's the trade, that's the toll, and there are no exceptions. See, people love the idea of success. They love the image of the finish line, the moment you make it, the celebration, the freedom. But what they don't want is the path that gets you there. They want transformation without friction, mastery without discipline, impact without inconvenience. But that's not how life works. Every single breakthrough, whether it's in business, in your body, in your relationships, it requires a letting go of something. Could be your comfort, could be your need to please everyone, could be your old identity, but you will pay a price. The question is, are you willing? Philosophers have been talking about this for thousands of years. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." The deeper your reason, the more pain you're willing to endure, the more you're willing to surrender. And psychologically, this is key because your brain is always calculating. Is this worth it? And if your why is weak, you won't make the sacrifice. You'll fall back into convenience, into excuses, into mediocrity dressed up as strategy. But when your why burns hot enough, you'll walk through fire, gladly. Think about anyone who's ever made something of their life. They made trade-offs. Steve Jobs gave up stability. Serena Williams gave up childhood normalcy. Elon Musk gave up personal peace for obsession. Mother Teresa gave up comfort for a life of service. They all understood something. Sacrifice isn't punishment, it's the pathway. And when you begin to view it that way, when you stop seeing it as loss and start seeing it as alignment, everything changes. Now, I'm not talking about random suffering. I'm not asking you to become a martyr. I'm talking about strategic sacrifice. Conscious trade-offs, saying no to what's good so you can say yes to what's great. You can't have a six-pack and eat pizza every night. You can't build a business and binge Netflix like it's your job. You can't create a legacy and chase everyone's approval. Something's got to go. Something always goes. And that's the hard truth most people dodge. They say, I want more, but they don't change anything. They want to upgrade the results without upgrading the responsibility. But success doesn't work on discount. It doesn't care how badly you want it. It cares how much you're willing to become the kind of person who earns it. And that starts with sacrifice. So ask yourself right now, what are you holding on to that's holding you back? What comfort, what habit, what fear are you still protecting? Because until you sacrifice it, it's running your life. You don't get to keep everything and still rise. That's not how this game is played. Success demands a toll. And if you're not willing to pay it, you're not ready to receive it. If you really want to evolve, if you want to become the kind of person who achieves uncommon results, you have to make peace with one core reality. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Let that sink in. Your brain is hardwired to keep you safe, to conserve energy, to seek out what's predictable, and that might have kept your ancestors alive. But today, that same instinct is exactly what's keeping most people stuck. Safe doesn't lead to significance. Predictable doesn't lead to power. We live in a culture that worships convenience. Everything's on demand, instant, frictionless. But the truth is, growth is none of those things. Growth is messy, growth is inconvenient, it's uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's the doorway. The pain of stretching is the signal that something real is happening, that you're stepping beyond who you've been. And the moment you start seeing discomfort as a sign of progress, not a problem to avoid, that's when everything begins to shift. Think about the gym. When you work a muscle, you're actually tearing it, micro tears. That's the process, and it's painful. but your body rebuilds stronger. That's biology. It's also a metaphor. Psychological strength works the same way. You challenge yourself. You speak up when it's easier to stay quiet. You take the risk when your fear says no. You show up on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. And every time you do, you're forming something. Call it resilience, call it grit, call it character, whatever you name it, it's forged through resistance, not retreat. Now here's what's fascinating. Most people say they want to grow. They say they want transformation, but what they really mean is I want things to change without me having to change too much. They want new results with old habits. They want to become someone different, but still hold on to all the comforts of who they were. That's not growth. That's delusion. You cannot upgrade your life and stay the same person. That friction you feel, that internal resistance, that's the edge of who you've been. And it's the invitation to step into someone greater. And look, I get it. Discomfort doesn't feel good. That's why it's powerful. That's why so few lean into it. But you've got to understand, your ability to succeed is directly proportional to your capacity to be uncomfortable. You show me someone who can sit in the fire of uncertainty, of fear, of not knowing, and still take action, and I'll show you someone who's already free. Because they're not ruled by their feelings, they're ruled by their vision. Growth doesn't come from doing what you already know how to do. It comes from doing the thing that makes your stomach drop a little, the thing you might fail at, the thing that stretches your identity. That's where you evolve. That's where you become more than you were. So if you're feeling the pressure, if you're in that zone where things are hard and you're tempted to pull back, don't. Lean in. That's not a breakdown, that's a breakthrough trying to happen. Comfort won't take you where you're meant to go, but discomfort just might. There's a fundamental truth about the human experience that most people never stop to examine. You will experience pain in life, but you get to choose which kind. That's not motivational fluff. That's a psychological and philosophical reality. You're going to pay. The question is, are you going to pay the price of discipline or the price of regret? Discipline is pain now for strength later. Regret is ease now for pain later. And I promise you, regret hurts more. Discipline is doing what's hard when you don't feel like it. It's sticking to your commitments when no one's watching. It's making the decision that serves your future instead of indulging your impulse. It's waking up early, pushing your limits, holding a higher standard because you've got a vision that matters more than your mood. And yeah, it's not easy, but what's the alternative? You avoid the discomfort today and you inherit the long-term pain of knowing you didn't give your best. You'll look back at the things you could have built, the potential you never accessed, the moments you didn't show up, and that pain, that's a different kind of suffering. And it doesn't go away. Psychologically, the mind is wired for short-term survival. It wants relief now. It wants safety now. It doesn't think in 10-year terms unless you train it to. That's why most people default to distraction, delay, denial. That's why so many drift through life reacting instead of choosing. But here's the key. Once you get this idea deep in your nervous system, everything changes. Discipline isn't deprivation. It's freedom. It's delayed gratification for amplified results. It's choosing the short-term pain that produces long-term joy. And I know that sounds simple, but it's not easy, because when you're in the middle of the decision, the workout you want to skip, the conversation you don't want to have, the business call you're afraid to make, you won't feel like being disciplined. That's why motivation is never enough. What gets you through those moments is clarity of purpose and emotional leverage. When your why is strong enough, your behavior starts to shift, even when your feelings fight you. This is why people who succeed at the highest level don't just have goals, they have standards. They've decided what they will and won't tolerate from themselves. They've chosen their pain. The athlete chooses the pain of pushing their body beyond comfort. The entrepreneur chooses the pain of risk, of failure, of pressure. The parent chooses the pain of putting someone else's needs ahead of their own. In each case, it's a conscious decision. And over time, that pain creates something powerful: mastery, depth, legacy. So if you're avoiding pain right now, ask yourself, is this the kind of pain that leads to my growth? Or is this the kind of comfort that leads to future regret? Because you're always choosing every day, and your choices are shaping your life more than your circumstances ever will. Discipline is pain with purpose. Regret is pain without redemption. Choose wisely. There's a deeper layer to success that most people overlook. It's not just about setting goals or taking action. Those are just the surface mechanics. The real engine underneath all of it is identity. You don't get the life you want. You get the life that matches who you believe you are. That's why the most powerful shift you can make is internal. Success begins when you upgrade your identity to match your vision. You can try to change your habits, push through with willpower, even model the strategies of the most successful people. But if deep down you're still operating from an identity that says, I'm not disciplined, or I'm not a leader, or I'm not someone who sacrifices, you'll sabotage yourself every time, because we always act in alignment with who we believe we are, even if that belief is unconscious. Psychologically, this is known as identity consistency. The human mind seeks coherence. If you see yourself as someone who quits when it gets hard, you'll find a way to quit, no matter how many motivational videos you watch. But the opposite is just as true. When you become the kind of person who values growth, who embraces discomfort, who lives with intention, suddenly the sacrifices don't feel like suffering. They feel like self-expression. They're just what you do. It becomes your nature, not just your behavior. Think about it. The person who wakes up at 5 a.m. to train doesn't do it just because of discipline. They do it because it's who they are. The person who turns down distractions to build their business doesn't feel like they're missing out. They're just living in alignment with their identity. They've decided, I'm not the kind of person who chases comfort. I'm the kind of person who builds something meaningful. That decision, that internal shift is everything. This is where most people get stuck. They're trying to produce new results with an outdated self-image. They haven't evolved how they see themselves, so every action feels like resistance. It's like trying to run a new operating system on old hardware. You can push it for a while, but eventually it breaks down. The breakthrough comes when you stop just chasing outcomes and start embodying the mindset of the person who already has them. So here's the real work. Instead of asking, what do I need to do to succeed? Start asking, who do I need to become? What kind of person naturally makes the sacrifices I've been avoiding? What kind of person sees discomfort as fuel? What kind of person doesn't need external validation to keep showing up? When you answer those questions honestly, and you begin to align your thoughts, your rituals, and your decisions with that version of you, your actions stop feeling forced and your results become inevitable. Because success is not just something you achieve, it's something you step into. One choice at a time, one identity shift at a time. You're either reinforcing the old story or writing a new one. And that's the power you've had all along. You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You rise or fall to the strength of your identity. One of the most powerful realizations you can have in life is this: the sacrifices you make today don't just change your present, they create the future you'll live in. The decisions you make now, the pain you're willing to endure today, have an incredible power to determine the life you will experience down the road. And here's the thing that most people miss. Short-term sacrifice is the gateway to long-term freedom. It's hard to think about long-term when the short-term feels so real. When you're in the trenches, whether it's working late on a project, saying no to social invitations because you're building something, or making sacrifices in your health and relationships, it's easy to wonder, is it worth it? The truth is, it always is. Because the sacrifices you make now are investments You're building equity in the life you truly want to live. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable today. You might be putting off instant gratification, but what you're really doing is trading temporary pleasure for the kind of results that will set you free. Psychologically, this is one of the most difficult shifts to make. Our brains are designed to crave instant rewards. We are hardwired for comfort, for ease, for pleasure now. That's why people choose the small pleasures of today, the Netflix binge, the fast food, the sleep over the workout. But what we don't often realize is that that is a trap. In the moment, it feels like a reward. But in the long run, it's the very thing that keeps us stuck. It's a short-term pleasure that robs us of long-term freedom. Long-term freedom, however, requires you to make a different choice. Delayed gratification. It requires you to say no to immediate comfort for something bigger. It's about choosing the hard thing now because you know that on the other side of that choice lies something far greater. Think about it. The athlete who sacrifices sleep and comforts to train relentlessly doesn't just develop physical strength, they gain mental toughness. The entrepreneur who sacrifices weekends with friends and family, who invests every spare dollar back into their business, is building something that eventually gives them freedom, financial independence, and the opportunity to live on their own terms. The person who sacrifices indulgence today, whether in food, in work habits, or in relationships, is creating a future where they can live with vitality, purpose, and energy. It's easy to mistake sacrifice for loss, but once you reframe it as a temporary decision for a permanent gain, everything changes. You begin to see your choices as part of a larger, meaningful design. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your future, you're saying yes to a future that aligns with your deepest values, your most potent potential. And here's the truth. Success isn't some distant destination. It's a byproduct of the choices you make today. When you invest time, energy, and effort into building your future self, you are essentially buying freedom for tomorrow. The more strategic sacrifices you make now, the more space you create for fulfillment and growth down the road. You don't have to make every sacrifice all at once, but the more consistent you are in making the right choices today, the more that freedom will compound. The great irony is that the freedom you seek is only available through the very sacrifices you might be avoiding. So embrace it, trust it, invest in it. What you give up today will make the life you want possible tomorrow. At this point, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed by everything I've shared. You might be thinking, okay, Tony, I get it. Success requires sacrifice. But here's the thing. Why should I embrace sacrifice? Why shouldn't I just avoid it? Why shouldn't I look for an easier way? I'll tell you why. Because sacrifice is not just about loss. It's about growth. It's about purpose. It's about becoming the person you were always meant to be. And when you understand that, when you see sacrifice for what it truly is, you'll stop resenting it and start respecting it. Sacrifice isn't a burden. It's a rite of passage. It's how we show that we're serious about our dreams, our goals, and our potentials. It's how we prove to the universe and to ourselves that we're ready to evolve. What happens when you see sacrifice as sacred? You stop resisting it, and instead, you embrace it as part of the process. You begin to understand that every sacrifice you make is an investment in your future self. It's like paying the toll to cross a bridge that leads to the life you truly want. The more you make those sacrifices, the more you shape your destiny. You become someone who is willing to take action, to stay committed, and to keep moving forward no matter the obstacles. And each sacrifice you make builds a little more strength, a little more character, a little more resilience. Psychologically, when you embrace sacrifice as sacred, you stop feeling victimized by it. You stop seeing it as something taken from you, and you start seeing it as something given to you. You understand that these sacrifices are, in fact, the gifts that keep on giving. When you sacrifice temporary comfort for long-term success, you are forging a stronger version of yourself. Every sacrifice teaches you something valuable. It teaches you about focus, discipline, and commitment. It teaches you how to stay true to your vision, even when the world tries to pull you in 1,000 different directions. And the more you can see sacrifice as part of your personal evolution, the more aligned you become with your ultimate purpose. The pain you experience along the way isn't random or meaningless. It's part of the design. It's helping you become the person capable of achieving the dreams you've set for yourself. It's helping you develop the kind of resilience, determination, and clarity that are required to live a life of significance. But there's something even more profound here. When you start to own your sacrifices, when you begin to view them as sacred, something incredible happens. You start to find a deeper meaning in everything you do. The work doesn't feel like work anymore. The late nights, the hard decisions, the moments when everyone else is sleeping while you're grinding, they all become part of the tapestry of a life that matters. And instead of feeling like a price you have to pay, you start seeing it as your privilege. You realize you're not just working to get by, you're building something. And that construction is your life. So as you move forward, remember this: the sacrifices you make aren't just taking something from you, they are giving you something greater. They're giving you the future you desire, the person you want to become, the legacy you want to leave. When you respect sacrifice, you align yourself with the very forces that will shape your destiny.